So you've got two phones, two big phones. You can't figure out which one you like best. So what do? You make them fight. That's what you do. Hey everybody, I'm Kris Wouk. Now, Samsung obviously has the upper hand here when it comes to marketing and general brand awareness, but take all that away and which phone ends up on top? Well, let's find out. When it comes to the specs for each phone, it's kind of a mixed bag. For an example, let's look at the processors. The Galaxy Mega 6.3 has a higher clock processor at 1.7 GHz, but it's only dual-core, while the Ascend Mate's 1.5 GHz processor is quad-core. The Ascend Mate has 2 gigs of RAM to the Galaxy Mega's 1.5 gigs, but the Mega has more internal storage. Both have 8 megapixel rear-facing cameras, but the Mega has a higher pixel count in its front-facing camera. Looking at the design, the Galaxy Mega 6.3 has a sleeker look in general, with its curves and its design that is generally right in line with the rest of the current gen series of Galaxy devices. It's also instantly recognizable as a Samsung phone, just one that's a little larger than most phones they carry. The Huawei Ascend Mate, on the other hand, is utilitarian almost to a fault. While I personally kind of like the stark simplicity of the Mate, it's definitely understandable that people might not be too fond of it. One point the Mate does have in its favor is that the plastics used result in a much grippier feel than the Mega 6.3. In the end, the Mega wins this category, but not exactly by leaps and bounds. In general, I think most people will prefer it, but the Mate's design does have its own sort of charm. Both displays share the same general size, although the Mega 6.3's screen is just a tad bigger, and both phones share a 1280 by 720 resolution. The Ascend Mate's slightly smaller screen gives it a slight edge when it comes to pixel density, but the difference is so slight that it's hard to imagine anyone really noticing. Both devices use LCDs for their displays, with the Mega 6.3 using TFT technology and the Ascend Mate using IPS+. Both phones have fairly decent displays, especially since the viewing distance isn't all that close. If you do move close enough, pixelation is noticeable on both devices, though why you'd actually be that close is another story. While the Galaxy Mega's screen is just a tad brighter, the screen itself reflects quite a bit of sun, making visibility outside pretty difficult. On the other hand, though the Ascend Mate's display isn't as bright, it's much easier to see outdoors. The Huawei Ascend Mate wins this category for its outdoor visibility and the slightly better viewing angle afforded by the IPS Plus display. Looking at the performance for both phones, it's a mixed bag. Each does better in different categories. During our reviews for each of these phones, we ran Antutu benchmark tests. The Galaxy Mega 6.3 ended up with an average score of 13,309, while the Ascend Mate did a little bit better with a final score of 15,639. The tables turned when we moved on to Epic Citadel, however. Running benchmark mode with the high quality setting enabled, the Galaxy Mega 6.3 got an average frame rate of 57.4 frames per second, while the Ascend Mate struggled, ending up with just 37.7 frames per second. In real-world use, the quad-core processor in the Ascend Mate made multitasking feel a bit snappier than the dual-core Mega 6.3, but when it came to gaming, the Mega had a clear edge, performing much better in games like Real Racing 3. When all is said and done, I'm calling this category a tie because each phone excelled in different areas. The Galaxy Mega runs the current version of Android 4.2.2 Jelly Bean. This is skinned over with the latest version of Samsung's TouchWiz UI, putting it right in line with the current generation of Galaxy devices. The Ascend Mate, on the other hand, runs Android 4.1.2 Jelly Bean, which is fairly recent but not the latest and greatest. This is skinned with Huawei's Emotion UI, which might be a little unfamiliar if you've used a lot of other devices that run Android. If you've used a Galaxy device in recent years, chances are good that you'll be right at home with the Mega 6.3's interface, as Samsung is pretty consistent even across version updates. The Ascend Mate, on the other hand, might feel a little strange, especially the lack of an app drawer. Instead, everything is right on the home screens. This might feel weird at first, but the simplified approach may be a nice change of pace for some people. Neither phone has a lot of bloatware, but they do both have a suite of apps from their respective manufacturers and a few office and productivity options. This category goes to the Mega 6.3 for its combination of the most up-to-date software and its familiar interface. The rear-facing cameras are very similar in each device, and we're talking more than just the fact that they're both 8 megapixels. For the most part, it was only when I looked really closely during A/B tests that I could distinguish differences between the two. I used both phones to take pictures of the same subject the same distance away with both phones on their default settings. The only change I made was to increase the picture quality to the full 8 megapixels on each phone. Both phones lead toward the soft and fuzzy side when it comes to the photos they capture. The Ascend Mate seems to lack a little color depth compared to the Mega 6.3, which tended to produce pictures with a slightly richer color. 1080p video on each phone is fairly sharp with no real difference between the two, aside from the colors, just like with the still pictures. The Galaxy Mega 6.3 wins this category because it offers more camera features than the Ascend Mate does. When it comes to the battery, not only does the Ascend Mate win this category, but it wins it, goes home, has a snack and a nap, comes back, and wins it again. When we're talking about the difference between the 4,000 mAh battery in the Mate and the 3,200 mAh battery in the Mega 6.3, it might not seem like much. They're both big numbers, right? Well, yeah, but think about the difference between a 2,000 mAh battery and a 1,200 mAh battery. Which would you prefer? That said, Samsung gets a nod for having a removable battery in the Mega 6.3. As big as the Ascend Mate's battery is, you're stuck with it unless you want to go rogue and change it the tough way. The bottom line is, both of these batteries will take you a long way, but the Ascend Mate's battery will take you a little further. I'm calling this a tie of sorts. Objectively speaking, I think a lot of people are going to prefer the Mega 6.3, and it's a fine choice. That said, I don't think a lot of devices really take advantage of Android's openness as a platform as much as it could, and Huawei's definitely doing that here with the Ascend Mate. I think that's pretty cool. If you're looking for more info, we have an in-depth article at AndroidAuthority.com. You can find the link to that down in the description. Did you enjoy this video or find it useful? If you did, maybe throw us a like or share it with your friends. If you want to stay caught up with everything we do, make sure to subscribe to our channel. And that's it for this one, folks. I'm Kris Wouk for Android Authority, and as always, thank you for watching.